Hi, in this video, I will tell you the story of Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is called a psychological condition that occurs in the process of possible dialogue with the hostage taker, which can be summarized as the formation of emotional sympathy and empathy. The origin of this syndrome is a bank robbery in Sweden in 1973. August 23, 1973, at 10 a.m. a robber in black glasses and a black wig who broke into a bank called Kreditbanken in Stockholm fired from right to left and said, "Let the party begin," he shouts. This person is then joined by another friend. The robbers take 4 women who are bank employees hostage with the weapons and explosives they bring with them, allowing other workers and customers to escape. In this way, 6 days of hostage taking and resisting the police action will also begin. Although the police troops who reach the scene want to enter the bank, they encounter resistance from the robbers and fail. They contact outside banks. The robbers' request is for a friend in the prison to be brought to the bank and a sports car to be present in front of the bank. Demands are fulfilled. But there is a problem. How can you get out of here before the police blockade is lifted? The robbers say that the blockade should be lifted so that they will release all hostages in return. Of course, the police will refuse this request. The tense wait around the bank continues. Meanwhile, journalists stand guard behind a police barricade, and radio and television stations make live connections from the scene. The public also watches with great interest and waits for the end of the work. It's like a classic robbery story, but the interesting part of the story is what happened inside the bank. Positive dialogues occur between bank employees held hostage for 6 days and robbers. The hostages eventually believe that the robbers don't want to kill them, they just want to get out of here. According to them, robbers are actually very good people. Living conditions drove them to do it. The real culprit is the police who didn't lift the blockade. Because the hostages believe that if the blockade had been lifted, the work would have been over by now. After a while, the robbers allow the hostages and press officers to make contact so that the siege can be lifted. The hostages, who communicate with those outside by phone, pour language for the lifting of the blockade, but their requests are still not met by the police. At the end of 6 days, the police throw gas sprayers at the bank, perform an operation and end the robbery. But during the operation, there is an incident that surprises everyone. The hostages, along with the robbers, resist the police. Moreover, hostages who refuse to testify against the robbers during the trial resort to another strange job, collecting money between them and trying to help them defend themselves. In fact, when they get out of prison, they continue to see each other as a family. Instead of judging what happened, this condition, which occurs as a result of the effort of those who try to understand them, is called Stockholm Syndrome in the literature. According to FBI research, this Stockholm Syndrome has an effect on hostages in 27% of kidnapping and hostage-taking rates. Most commonly seen in prisoners of war, hostages, sexually abused children, cult members, marketed prostitutes and victims of domestic violence. The reason for this Stockholm Syndrome is human survival instinct. The syndrome usually develops as follows. First, the victim, who is completely isolated from the outside world, notices the violent tendencies of the person who oppresses him, feels that he can kill himself, and as this fear of death increases, the desire to survive increases in parallel. Increasingly weak in the face of the oppressor, the victim magnifies even his smallest kindness in his eyes and fills it with a sense of gratitude. After a while, he puts himself in the place of the oppressor and begins to see things through his eyes. To show pleasant feelings for him, he begins to give credit for what he has done. He feels close to the one who shows pressure and relaxes himself with the feeling that no harm will come to him. In the end, the victim does his best not to lose this relationship, thinking that the only positive relationship he has is the relationship between him and the oppressor.